Alright, I'm getting ready to go here, so I'm going to tie the ramp here first so I get that line out of the way, so I'm ready to pull the gangplank aboard once I'm ready. Put that there so it's out of the way. We don't have any downwind or upwind guy today, so we'll just start with that one over there, even though there's no pressure on it at this point. Just bringing the starboard guy over. Go ahead and coil it right away and bring it on board. One less thing to do when I get back here. Got to tie these guys tight because you don't want them in the motor. These are not floating lines, so and I get them coiled ready to throw when I get to the next location. We'll pull the anchor out and come back around to the next one. Got the starboard anchor. We'll save valve for last. But I'll go ahead and untie it. Leave the line just in case the boat tries to drift away. And we'll pull this anchor. Sometimes they come out hard, sometimes easy. Alright, we'll get the port. Alright, we got the port guy. There's a little power on the engine to keep the boat from drifting out and to keep pressure on it so it doesn't turn. Again, you got to tie these securely so you don't end up lines wrapped around your motor, because these most definitely will drift back into the motor if they're loose. Alright, anchors are all pulled. Put them back in the bag and bring the line back with me. All lines are coiled, ready for deployment at the next site. The next site's going to need to be tied firmly because we got high winds coming this afternoon. And then I just pull the gangplank aboard. It sets right in front of the door, ready to deploy at the next spot. That's it. Alright, getting ready to depart. All lines are aboard, gangplank's aboard. You can see I've got some pressure on the motor, keeping the boat stabilized. Putting on my life vest. The water temperature here is really cold. We're almost into June and averaging about 46. Alright, everything's stable here. We're ready to back away. Hopefully it won't be stuck too hard. And no problem. Pulls right away. Sun's just coming up, as you can see. Whoop, no depth. You gotta have depths out there. Not recording a depth yet for some reason. Alright, there we go, 7.5 feet. Well, we'll just sneak out of our anchorage and go to the next spot. We're about 7 miles, a little over 7.5. We'll try to get all tied up, secure there before that wind comes. I ended up waking up at 3 o'clock because I was so, I don't know, I guess I was thinking about it. Today is what I call decision day. I had to decide whether I moved to another point along the shore here on the west side or to go over to the marina. There's some places there I could tie up too. But I didn't want to do that unless I had to. So I had to check weather and determine whether I could afford to go to a different spot. And fortunately the weather looks good. So anyway, let me get my camera. Alright guys, watch where you're going. I want to get a picture of that sunrise. Well, usually I get everything out in the cockpit, but I forgot the camera this time. Beautiful morning. Yeah, there's so many things to remember to do in the morning. I usually try to have the camera, the binoculars, everything up on deck before I ever leave. Have my tracking on, both emergency and the boat navigation, so that I don't forget, because I have many times forgotten. Or sometimes it doesn't work right away, so you gotta check and make sure it's functioning. The other day I had my Zolio I turned it on about twice. It still didn't stick. And halfway through the trip, I realized it wasn't sending out a track. So I brought the phone up into the cockpit. I figured the Bluetooth somehow it wasn't making good contact. Anyway, you know, those are things you got to check. Boost it up here a little bit to 3,000 RPM. Good morning, folks. I've just arrived a little bit ago, actually about an hour now, to the new site. Got here pretty early, probably 8 o'clock or actually before that. Took off almost at sunrise. I wanted to get here while it was still calm, and it was. I also had time that way to fly the drone a little bit here at this location. The en route leg was without incident. I did managed to make 2 drone flights when I got here. The location is good. It's going to be lined up with the strong wind we're supposed to get this afternoon. Expecting 20 to 25 miles an hour right out of the southeast. So I'm lined up to the southeast. I've got good protection in here in this anchorage. I did see a number of pelicans this morning, white pelicans. At least one pair, and then maybe one single. I don't remember if it was, I couldn't see another pair there. I think there was 3 total. Some more waterfowl, mallards and that sort of thing around. It's a nice day so far, but it's supposed to get really hot. Clouding up again a little bit, although there's a lot of blue sky around. So I expect it's going to be a warm day, and I'll do a lot of reading. Maybe some hikes, I don't know yet. I did do some drone flights up the valley, and I could maybe walk up those valleys just to see if there's anything up there in the way of critters, but problem with that is mostly during the day they don't move around much. If you're going to see that kind of wildlife, you really need to look in the early morning or late night, or just before nightfall, I should say. That's enough for now. think it's still morning, so I'll say it's good morning again. The sun has come out. It was cloudy all morning, and it was cold. Actually, it was in the mid-60s, and then all of a sudden it jumped to about 77 degrees in an hour's time. Must have been some kind of front go through, and I think that's what was supposed to generate all this wind this afternoon. But so far, no wind, as you can see on the water. So I made some lunch. I ate so early this morning. Prepared the lines too for tomorrow. I got the fenders out, hung those, got those set and ready, and the dock lines ready. So I'm prepared to go in the morning. I'm not sure of the timing yet. I need to take another look at the weather, probably later tonight and then earlier in the morning again. Appears it should be fine. What it's going to depend on is whether the wind is from the northwest or the northeast when I go into the docks, or whatever the direction is. I want to make sure that I'm upwind so that the wind pushes me down on the dock. Since I'm alone, I need that help, the wind, to help hold the boat until I get it tied down. So if you're downwind, then it's going to drift away from the dock, and that gets to be a real mess if you're shorthanded sometimes. Thought I'd have some shade out here in the aft deck. I'm kind of in the sun here right now. I think the sun will continue to go up, so I should be in the shade for a little bit, but I may not stay out here because it's a little too sunny. And now that we're up at 77, it's starting to get warm too. So, and as you can see, I did some trim my beard so I look a little more presentable when I'm going down the highway. Don't want to scare anybody. Being out here for a couple of weeks, it tends to get a little scraggly looking. One thing I will say is, I think you've seen the kayak several times in the videos. This trip I have not used it. One of the primary uses I have for it is to go into areas where I can see wildlife, where there's, some cattails or some swampy areas where the water's maybe shallow, but it's a great place for waterfowl and related species. Because this is a reservoir, I'm finding that's not easy to find. When I was up in the Cheyenne River Basin, I think there was maybe potential at the upper end of that, but I didn't get all the way up there. I was planning to, but since I'm unfamiliar with that, I wasn't sure how far I had to go up there. And the water was pretty shallow, except for the channels where the river comes through. I could have worked my way up there, but didn't get around to it, started running out of time, so I turned around and came back. Long and the short is, it's not conducive kayaking that much unless you just like to go out and paddle around. I like to paddle for a purpose, not to just go out and paddle. I can do that anytime. Unfortunately, there just hasn't been there, but it's good to have it along. It serves as a rescue boat if the main boat decides to sink and other things like that, so it's good to have it along anyway. Unfortunately, it's not been used on this trip and probably will not. I don't see anything in this inlet that I'm in right now that's worthwhile going kayaking for. So that's just a kind of a rundown. I always keep my field glasses in the cockpit with me and my camera in case something shows up. I can get a picture. I had lunch because I got up so early. I did have a little lunch today, but chicken salad, sandwiches, some chips, and white wine made a good combination. That'll hold me till dinner, which is supposed to be grilled burgers, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to grill because it's going to be blowing. It's supposed to blow 25 miles an hour, and it's tough to get this grill to heat if you got that much wind. But we'll see. If I get in a bind, I could always eat the other half of my chicken salad sandwich. I was saving that for tomorrow so that I could have something for lunch, because I know when I'm active trying to load the boat and stuff like that, I get hungry a little quicker. So okay, that's the rundown, and enough for now. Hello folks, the wind hasn't showed up as we expected. Right about now it should be blowing pretty hard, but it's not. I'm guessing maybe 10 to 15 miles an hour. It should be up around 20 to 25. It hasn't arrived yet, but maybe it's just late. So I'm, after a long nap, I've just been reading, and now I'm sipping a little glass of white wine because it's cold and it's refreshing right now. Otherwise, this evening I'm going to be grilling burgers and probably listen to my audiobook. I'm on my second audiobook. I'm on my second paperback, and then one other book that I'm reading in the morning when I do my studies and stuff. So beautiful sky though. It's kind of a mix of cloud and blue I was expecting much higher temperatures today. It was supposed to be up closer to 90. It might still make it. It went up really fast this afternoon. So far, we're still not there. And it's actually, with the little breeze, it's cool. Not cool, but refreshing. It's not that as bad, especially in the shade, which right now I'm sitting in, but on the aft deck here of the boat. So tomorrow's the last day. I'm going to head in. Not going to be in a big hurry. I'm going to try to arrive around noonish. I don't want to get there too early because I only have about maybe 3 hours of work if I drag it out. I don't want to look like I'm living there because they might kick me out of there. Just going to be working on the boat, putting it back in roadworthy shape. Usually I do some of that before I even get to the docks, but that I won't do this time around because I plan to spend the night there in the parking lot and then just head out in the morning first thing. It's a long day. If I get out of here early enough, I can make a decent arrival in the evening back to Forest Lake where I staged the boat. So that's the plan. Last night here and on this trip, it's been an enjoyable trip. A few surprises. One of the things I found was the amount of mud. I thought there would be a little more sandy soil, but it's not. It's all clay. It's all muddy clay, and it tends to hold the moisture because of the clay, I think, well up on the shore. So places you come in, a lot of times you just sink up to your ankles in mud. Fortunately, that only happened to me a couple times, but it does end up making a mess of the boat, which I will not be able to clean up until I get home. Or at least I'm not going to bother with it, because you pick up a little dirt every time you go ashore, and it just collects on the bow, and it can wait until I get home. The whole boat will need to be power washed anyway, because I ended up on some gravel roads because of Google taking me off on some tangent that I don't understand what happened, and I was suckered enough into following the directions, and I should never have done that. Lesson learned. Glad it came. It was an enjoyable trip. Different kind of country completely from what I'm normally boating in. Usually I'm up on the boundary waters of Minnesota, Canada, or in Canada itself, and I plan to do that later this year if I can, depending on what the border restrictions are for crossings. So anyway, those are some plans, a summary of some of the issues I've run into. Wind is another big one. You got to really pay attention to the wind. I can't afford to be out in too rough a water with this boat. It's not designed for that. But even tied up to shore, you cannot be too careful. Even the wind can rip the board out, the anchors out of the shore if you're not careful. Wind is a big problem here. One thing that's helped is the cooler water. Right now, water temperature's been averaging about 46, sometimes as low as 44, up to 48, depends on where I'm at. That water temperature has actually kept the temperatures moderate. On the days that, like today, it was supposed to get really hot. I think with the breeze coming off the water, it cools quite a bit, and it's kind of like turning on the air conditioning. If there's little breeze, it tends to be cooler than probably up. If you get on land anywhere a mile inland, you're going to have really hot temperatures in comparison, probably 10 degrees difference. So that may be one reason it's not as warm today as I thought it would be. Well, there you go.